Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Hang out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy is Ted.
And today we are going to ask the question: do you allow third-party published products in your Dungeons and Dragons game?
Hey, jump down in the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
Not too long ago, there was a Kickstarter, and you pointed out, and it kicked by a lot, and there was a lot of add-ons and stuff, and you're debating on whether or not to get it, and you're like, there's this one thing in there, and I think that would be cool, and it's got options for players in it, and I was kind of like, I think I own that thing. I looked at it, and I was like, meh. We want to talk to you guys about third-party products. Are you using them? How do you feel about them? And also, oddly, curiously enough, in this edition of Dungeons & Dragons, quite a few third parties have actually been subcontracted and put out the actual material for Wizards of the Coast.
That's correct.
Yeah, so I guess kind of like a pro, cons, our opinions, that kind of thing. For 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, I think right now I own like one or two, maybe three third-party products.
Okay.
Not too many. Of them, my favorite being Tome Beast.
Right. I'm a big fan of Tome Beast, and it's everything it says. It's a tome. It is massive. You look over behind Dave's shoulder, that book is at least as big as two of the core books of D&D.
Now, I've used several monsters out of it. I think it was a tremendous value for what the book retailed for. It's really good. I think I got that on the Kickstarter.
You did.
Yeah.
I was sad when I missed out on that Kickstarter. I just wasn't paying attention, and it ended before I could get my bid in.
And I enjoy it. But for the amount of time I've had the Tome of Beasts compared to the amount of time I've had the Volo's Guide to Monsters, for some reason I want to call it a Fiendum Folio, but Volo's Guide to Monsters, I must say I've actually gone to that book more often, and I'm more inclined to go to it. And it's got way smaller section full of monsters. Mm-hmm. Now, like the monster books, I feel like, okay, as a gamer, I'm more inclined to go to those for a third party than I am player options.
And there's a reason for it, and that's we've discussed off air about how much, without knowing or without purchasing ahead of time, it's hard to determine how much balancing factor was put into those designs. And I'm certain that some third-party publishers spend a lot of time and might have gone through a decent amount of playtesting to make sure that this actually works. I know when I was kind of creating 5th edition content for our website, I when I was specifically races, I went to one of the less powerful races and I would compare it to that. And that was my formula. I said, okay, well, I want to make it based on this so that no one says, well, this is too powerful for my game, I'm not going to allow it.
Yeah, I can't speak for other third-party creators. I guess we kind of are. Like, we don't create a lot of stuff, but we have done some things, and it's like when we create something, I want to go, well, I want to create something where the DM doesn't have to think about putting it in our game or not. Mm-hmm. They just go, oh, well, Nerdarchy did this, so yeah, it's fine, you can use it. I'm not saying we're there yet. I mean, we're little babies when it comes to publishing content. But that's the bar that I'm looking at. I want our stuff to be as good as Watts and as balanced as Watts, which sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But it seems like third-party companies a lot of times have trouble hitting that mark, and there's two reasons, right? One is they're just not good at hitting the mark. And the other is they don't agree. Right? And I've seen like designers talking about this a bit too, going, well, this is how I feel it should be. And there's a bit of that too. And and even in Nerdarchy, we had this back and forth because Nerdarchy, Nate the Nerdarchy is very much like that. Well, I don't agree. It should be this way. But we're kind of like, Nerdarchy as a whole is kind of like, it's somebody else's stuff we're playing with, so we want to try and play by their rules. And there's nothing wrong with Nate's opinion. Like, it's totally fine. But as a collective, we have to all kind of agree where we want to be at.
So the disparity in player options versus DM options, because for lack of a better word, is if I'm the DM and I put a monster out there, if the monster is slightly more powerful than the challenge or challenge rating that I have it scripted as, or as whoever scripts it as, well, then that just might be a hard fight. And the worst possible scenario is you've undergiven them XP. Or in some cases, if it's too easy, you've overgiven them XP. Not as big a deal as, okay, well, this player option is broken, and now all of the challenge ratings are too low, because the player is able to deal with them in a much easier manner.
Right, or it becomes an option that every player at your table wants. Like they don't want to play anything else. They want to play Race X because Race X is clearly better than everything else in the game, and that becomes a bit of an issue too. And it's like you said, like the monsters come and go in your game. Even magic items can kind of come and go, but permanent player options, like that requires a bit more. That requires the DM and the player, coming to terms and going, well, this isn't really an acceptable option in the game anymore, so you have to change your character, which no player wants to hear. And I really feel like most DMs don't really want to do it either. It just feels like a dick move.
Like with Volo's Guide to Monsters has monstrous races, and it warns you. It says these are not properly balanced. If you look at Kobold and Orc, they actually have minuses to their stats and don't have the +2, the +4 in total net. They actually have, in some cases, a balance of 0. Kobold is a +2 to Dex and a -2 to Strength.
Something like that, yeah.
So it's like, that's a net 0. Whereas on the other side of it, the Yontai Pureblood, they actually have resistance on... or advantage on saving throws to anything magical.
Yeah, they have magic resistance.
And they're immune to poison damage and poison condition, or resistant to poison damage and immune to the condition.
They get a lot of stuff.
It's like, those things are crazy to just be like, yeah, I get this racially. What?
Now, 5th edition is put together less balanced than... Well, with less balance, some of the things aren't meant to be balanced. And I even think I've seen the designers talk about this, like, why is this so much better than that? Well, because it's Fireball, right? It's supposed to be better. And I've seen that argument. But I'm kind of curious, like, the approach. And I've talked about that. I've threatened to do this, but it hasn't happened yet. And I've talked to several third-party publishers about getting them on a live chat and just having a discussion with them. And, so and me and Ted have talked about this too multiple times off camera. So we're like, we might as well have a conversation on camera. And I'm curious too, like how many DMs are like, no, if it's a third party, you just can't bring it into your game. I know, like, Pathfinder is huge amount of third party material. There's so much of it, far more than probably Pathfinder themselves has put out by this book, because there's just so many companies. Although 5e is going to be there, is already there too.
So there's 3 different avenues that you can do when it comes to what you allow in your game. There's the official WOTC only, and that falls in like the Adventure League, where if it's not in a printed book, the answer is just no. Then there's the, well, I only accept WOTC stuff, so I'll include anything printed and anything Unearthed Arcana. And then there's the, well, I'll accept third-party stuff as well. And then technically there's, I guess, a 4th one in the middle of, I'll accept third-party stuff with DM's approval.
Right, or possibly, and there might be certain companies that DMs are just like, yeah, you can put that stuff in my game. I'm not even going to think about it. And then there might be like another category that's like where your DM's like, fuck it, I don't care what you do. That one's a little more rare, I think, but I'm sure it's out there. Right now, we have like the anti-3rd edition model for 5th edition, which is, we're not giving you stuff. Like, we're going to give you some Unearthed Arcanas, but it's not official, and we're going to give you a bunch of those, which is cool. But they're not putting out a lot of product as they've done previously. The releases are really slow. I think they're putting out better products, and I would love if they could continue with the quality of Volo's Guide, going forward. That'll be amazing. Like, that is, aside from the core books, that's my favorite book out right now.
I'm excited for Tales of the Yawning Portal. I'd like to see what is in there. How in depth are they going? Is it only DM stuff, or is there going to be some, like, I imagine that there's going to be some new monsters in it, just because I think there has to be. We'll find out when it gets here. But, you know, is there going to be anything player-related? New magic items, new class options, or any of that kind of stuff? Who knows?
Well, and that's the other question, right? That kind of brings us to, like, because Wizards of the Coast isn't really giving us stuff, and they have opened up an OGL for 5th edition, and they have the DMs Guild, does that make DMs more willing to allow third-party products into their game? And, like, in essence, like, has Wizards of the Coast really done this really great service, whether intentional or not, to third-party publishers, because they're starving us for new stuff, but there's all these other people that want to put stuff out. And then you're getting, like, celebrity style gamers, I don't even know what you want to call them, you know, that come into, like, Matt Mercer and Matt Colville. I don't know if Matt Colville has actually put any products out for 5th edition, but we know Matt Mercer has. And, like, does star power matter too, right? If you're a DM, you're like, do you go, well, you know, I'm kind of hit or miss on third party, but Matt Mercer put it out. You can put it in my game for sure. And we've played some of his stuff. We've played with his Witch Hunters, and it was a lot of fun. But the question is, what are you guys doing with third-party publishing? Yes, no, maybe so. Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can support us over on Patreon.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.